everyone. Thank you for coming out. My name is Connor Beck, and I would like to discuss a hot topic in the United States. This topic is the racial divide and also the divide between law enforcement officers and their citizens. Before I get started, I want to say that I come from a long line of law enforcement personnel. I have 4 direct family members who have served in law enforcement for many years. My father has served in with the Cobb County Sheriff's Office for over 30 years and has never had a complaint filed against him for excessive force. My aunt is a criminal justice teacher and also a retired Powder Springs police officer who has touched the lives of many, many troubled teens. I've met many lieutenants, sheriffs, sergeants, and also police officers throughout my life that have the same mindset my family has had for years. That is ideal to serve and protect the citizens of the United States day in and day out from the evil they may encounter. According to the FBI database, in 2014, there were over 1 million violent crimes committed in the United States. Also in 2014, there were over 1,000 citizens killed by police officers. This means that 0.0009% of all violent crimes ended in a civilian casualty. We can't ask for much smaller of a margin of error. The ideal that police officers are supposed to be perfect, it has recently come to light, and it couldn't be further from the truth. According to a study done by Cambridge University, the requirements to become a police officer in the United States are actually very bare minimal. Also, most police officers don't have prior firearm training before joining the force. Their firearm training is very basic in comparison to most militaries and also other police departments throughout the world. This leads me to my next question of why don't they just shoot the guns out of their hands, or why don't they shoot to wound instead of shooting to kill? This starts with something called the use of force continuum. It is a progression of reads that has been a nationwide standard for years by the National Institute of Justice. Every agency has tweaked it in their own minor way, but it is the foundation for use of force by officers in the United States. The first step is officer presence. In this situation, just the mere presence of an officer at the scene of the crime is enough to defuse. Verbalization is the next step. The officer does not use physical force, but rather verbal, non-threatening commands to tackle a sticky situation. Empty hand control. This is used when a suspect is not compliant and an officer has to use many different grappling and fighting techniques to detain the suspect and defuse the situation. Next is less lethal methods such as mace, tasers, and even batons. Finally, the final stage, lethal force. This is only to be used by an officer suspecting someone to pose a serious threat to himself or another individual. This is the absolute last resort and most hated stage by all law enforcement officers. With everybody operating under the same standard, why do these innocent civilians keep getting killed? Is the continuum flawed? Absolutely not. The issue is time, not in a philosophical sense, but it is in a literal sense. The issue is the officers do not have enough time to react in order to properly detain a suspect when a firearm comes into play. A study shown reveals that a suspect can deliver 6 rounds of 9mm ammo from a Glock pistol in less than 1.5 seconds. It takes a typical average everyday Joe officer 1.5 seconds just to draw his weapon and get it up to eye level to get off a shot. The officer's screwed in every situation, no matter how you look at it. I know exactly what you've been thinking up to this point. Cool, you know a lot of law enforcement officers, you think they're all saints. And you back this up with a few statistics. Wrong. I know for a fact that not everybody that wears the badge uses it in the correct manner. I know that not all police officers are saints, but President Obama once said, "Do not judge the many for the actions of few." Nobody wants to discuss the third leading cause of death in the United States, and that is doctor-related errors. Are you going to stop going to the doctor? Absolutely not. We're not going to protest outside of every hospital either, because you cannot judge the many based on the actions of the few. Anytime there's a profession that holds some type of power in this world, there's always going to be a small percent of that group that uses the power in the wrong way. I appreciate you listening thus far, but if you have not learned anything, I hope you do now. I hope that up to this point, I've no way offended anyone in any way, because that is not my objective. The next point is a very sensitive subject. Please listen with an open mind regardless of your beliefs, views, or situation. I want to discuss the racial divide regarding law enforcement that is sweeping this nation. For a long time, minorities have been screwed over by the justice system time and time again. But why? Do police officers wake up in the morning saying they're going to go hunt minorities? Absolutely not. And if they do, those are the ones that we go back are using their badge for the wrong purposes. There's no arguing with the fact that the vast majority of our prisons are taken up by African Americans and Hispanics. The media blames the police, but are they really the ones to blame? I don't believe so. The root of this issue is within our own government. It begins in poverty-stricken areas where drugs are prevalent. In these areas, the reason so many people get involved in drugs is because they cannot legally support their family by doing things the right way, even with multiple jobs. In 1994, Bill Clinton imposed his new violent crime bill that has targeted these people of poverty for years. The bill consisted of laws such as the three strikes clause and the mandatory minimum sentencing law that completely limited judicial discretion. This information relates directly to the racial divide because almost 50% of African Americans and Hispanics take up the poverty percentage in the United States. This is in comparison to 7% of the poverty percentage being white. This is why the problem does not lie with law enforcement, because in all reality, they're just trying to make a living just like everyone else. The problem is caused by the individuals creating the laws, not the ones enforcing them. Even the highest ranking sheriff or police chief in any police force must obey and listen to the law. And even the most notorious judge must follow the guidelines set in front of him. I really hope that everyone is able to take a little bit of information from this speech. Thank you all for your time.